my grandparents, my grandpa, and also some of my relatives, they gave us some gifts. But all the gifts, they're like lucky thing. For example, 红牛, like you like how do you say? You have energy, right? Red ball. You have energy like a ball, and also some
Didn't
like.
They actually just give you wait? They gave you Red Bull drink.
Yeah, the drink.
Welcome to the Future Dragonz podcast, the podcast about being Chinese in New Zealand. I'm your host, George, and today our guest is Meng Ping.
Thank you for having me, George.
It's my pleasure. So, Meng Ping, tell the audience about yourself.
Hello, everyone. I'm Meng Ping. Now I'm a PhD student at University of Canterbury, and my major is education because I'm a Chinese language teacher, and I have been in New Zealand like 4 years now. Yeah, it's really my pleasure to come to be invited to in this podcast. Yeah.
We'll start with, what province of China did you come from?
I'm from Hubei province. Have you heard Hubei province?
Yeah, I've heard of Hubei.
Yeah. So I'm from Hubei province, a city called Xiangyang.
Xiangyang, okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what inspired you to come to New Zealand?
Yeah, that's a good question. I came here 2016 as a Chinese teacher in the Confucius Institute. And that time I was a master student. Yeah. So honestly, I didn't know much about New Zealand before I came here, because my major was teaching Chinese as a second language. So I always wanted to go to another country to teach language, teach Chinese language. And so that time I got this position to come here to New Zealand to teach Chinese for 1 year. So that's the reason. But after that, I'm so impressed with New Zealand, and I want to have a opportunity to stay longer here. So that's why I applied for my PhD, and which led me to stay longer. Yeah.
Oh, cool. So how was New Zealand sold to you when you first decided to come to New Zealand? Like, why did you not go to Australia?
Oh, well, yeah. Honestly, I haven't been to Australia until now. Right. And I think it should be quite similar, right? But Australia is a little bit...
Oh, you're talking to the wrong crowd now.
All right. Australia is a little bit too big for me. Right. But I know I'm from China. It's really big. I mean, because I've been to Christchurch. I mean, being here is quite a long time, so I got used to this lifestyle and the city size. I still remember the first day I came to Christchurch, and my homestay picked me up at the airport, and I was in the car and I saw the city. I feel like, is
this a city?
Yep, because I saw, all the houses are really, low, and all the cars are really small. It's really my first...
Small?
Yeah, because...
Wait, what kind of cars do people drive in China?
I can't remember the names of the cars. I'm not a big fan of the cars, but I still remember my feeling that day. I saw the cars here, and then compared to the cars I saw in China, I feel like, ooh, people drive quite small cars here. That's really my first feeling. Yeah. And after that, I didn't see any people on the street. Yeah. And lots of trees, It's really good environment here, good environment here. Yeah. And another interesting thing I still remember was I saw people in the middle of the winter, have shorts and have down jacket. Yeah. I feel like, what's the fashion?
It's the true Kiwi fashion. It's what is it? I think it's swan dry with short shorts. Okay. It's all the farmers. In the middle of winter, they'll go out in their farms with a swan dry jacket and short shorts.
Yeah, it was really interesting to me. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Kiwis bear the cold. And that's because traditionally, anyways, Kiwi houses have been quite cold.
I see.
Poor insulation. That's probably a joke in bad taste, actually.
Yeah.
So did you know anybody in New Zealand before you came?
No.
Okay. Oh,
yeah.
okay. Yeah. Oh, must have felt quite lonely.
Honestly, yes. I think the first year when I was here, I really feel lonely because that time I was still master student back in China. And but I was lucky because I have friends coming here with me. But because we taught Chinese in different schools. So we lived in different homestays. So basically we live by ourselves. And because I have a twin sister, as you know, because when I was back in China, I always have someone, you know, with me. And also in the university, I always have friends around. But when I came here the first year, I feel like, just myself. And it's quite hard for us to make friends. But I enjoyed going like to the hills, tramping, and try different stuff here. But it's quite tough.
Quick question. Who did you put as your emergency contact when you first came here?
Oh, I can't really remember. I think maybe because 2 girls and a guy, we came together in the group. I think I remember their number. So I just, put their number. But it's kind of hard. Like you put your like your parents or something like that, and it's like, but they're in China, they can't help you. That's true. Yeah, and then honestly, I think the end of that year, because my term was only 1 year, so I supposed to go back China, and the last half year I feel lonely. I really want to go back to China because, but at the same time, I'm really excited to see different things here. So. But you know, it's good for me to grow up, you know, as an adult to, you know. So
what was it that eventually made you feel, hey, you know, I want to stay in New Zealand for longer?
It's hard to say the reason. I just feel because I've got a evening class at the university, so I taught one class at the university. Every time I saw those students there in the library and studying in the buildings, I was quite jealous. I don't know why. I just feel I want to study here. I can't explain this why you want to study, but
So you were looking at those university advertisements.
Maybe this advertisements was really good.
But how do they advertise universities in China, actually?
I think we know those good universities, and we have different rankings for the university. And we know like a different type of university that we have some names for them as well. I think recently they just canceled those rankings. But we know what are good universities.
Because what I've noticed is that New Zealand universities spend so much money on advertising. And you know, what they try and do to pull students in is that they advertise the lifestyle factor, which, I mean, I understand why they're doing that, but now the more I think about it, the weirder that sounds.
I really like UC's advertisement. Do you remember UC Me? I think they try to promote their students. I think.
They're putting the personalities first. You know, it's, you know, like if you are more of an academic, you'd think of university as a way to get a better job. I've not, most of the advertisements have not talked about that at all, which I find.
That's interesting, because I think in China we always think better universities, better job. That's really natural for us to connect them. And universities, when they promote, they don't really promote like people, like students from the university. They promote how, for example, how many publications they have, right? How many laboratories they have, like this.
Right. Okay. That's
so.
Wow.
I mean, I really wanted to study here, and also I remember back in China, my supervisors for my undergrads and master, they encouraged me to do my doctoral degree, have my doctoral degree, and also they encouraged me to go to another country to do that. So I mean, they just mentioned it once, but I remember it, so I think why not just try it.
Do you agree with me in that the true testament of your skill in a language is whether you can tell jokes in that language?
Oh wow, I think so. But sometimes, because last year I was going to Toastmasters. I tried to improve my speaking skills in English. Sometimes I was quite embarrassed because everyone was laughing. I said, why? I don't know. It's because some of the jokes, maybe it's just I don't connect with them. I can't remember exact examples, but I remember several times a speaker said a joke and everyone was laughing. And I thought, okay, why everyone was laughing? So always, so the language is not only about language, some about cultures,
Okay. Yeah. Are you still going to Toastmasters?
I stopped this year because I was quite busy with my thesis. But I want to come back, just go back to new Toastmasters. Yeah.
Well, soon Toastmasters will watch this podcast, and then they'll tell, please promote Toastmasters as a way to improve your language.
Yeah, that's really good. I highly recommend. You just need to choose a correct and good club, to go.
And so, since you actually studied Chinese language teaching, what are your opinions in the way the Chinese language is currently taught? Like, do you reckon we could improve it at all?
You mean as a Mandarin or Chinese language learner?
Well, yeah. Because, I know a lot of people, just because English and Chinese are so different languages. So a lot of people struggle learning Mandarin. I didn't struggle that bad, but I was leveraging a lot of my Cantonese skill. The more I studied Mandarin, the more that I could find a one-to-one mapping of phonetic sounds for each character. But like number 3 is san, and it's like sam in Cantonese, right? You can see it's quite similar there. But when you use it in a sentence, it doesn't sound similar at all, because
that's true. Yeah.
And most often it's the sound I can get, but the tone is what doesn't quite translate between the two languages. But what I was trying to do was, in my head I was kind of mapping Cantonese to Mandarin sounds and translating on the fly. That's what I was kind of doing in my head. That's
helpful, right?
Yeah, but I think ultimately that hinders my ability to learn Mandarin to a greater level. Because there's a few sentence structures that are quite different. Like the what sentence structure. If you ask, what is this? In Cantonese, it's like ligo, which is jigger. Ligo hai mat yeah. Ligo mea. And Cantonese is very prone to like, what do you call it? Like contracting words as well. More so than Mandarin is what I found. But in Mandarin, you'd say, 这个是什么? Let's, like in that one case, a different word is used to express the same concept. Like, because mat and is not a Mandarin word.
No.
Yeah. Whereas other sentences, it is just the same characters, but the sound is different. But in that particular sentence, all the characters are different between the two languages.
Yeah, I found that because I don't really understand Cantonese, but sometimes I saw those Cantonese, I watched those Cantonese movies, TV dramas, and I saw the subtitles with traditional Chinese character. There are some characters we don't use it at all in Mandarin, like what you said, right? Yeah, it's quite interesting, but we share the same writing system.
It's very interesting that you said that you've got some characters that you don't use, because when I've watched Cantonese dramas with the subtitles, usually the subtitles don't match what they're saying.
That's interesting.
The subtitles are written in standard Chinese.
But they use some, I think, for example, the sentence you said, there are some words in Mandarin that are not, but they try to use the characters to like translate that sound like into Chinese characters. Yes, but in Mandarin we don't use them.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I know what you mean. But for the most part, I find that, in that one example that I gave, they would actually write it in the Mandarin. Like they'd say, 呢個係乜嘢? But the subtitles would say, no, it won't be the same. It would say, 這個是什麼? That's because that obviously the subtitles are targeting,
Mandarin speaking,
standard Chinese speaking audience, not Cantonese speaking audience.
Yeah.
So that's actually pretty interesting.
Yeah, I think, because you have Cantonese background, I think it's easier for you to learn Mandarin. But for those native English speakers, it's quite challenging for them.
Yeah.
I think grammar is okay, but tones is the most difficult stuff for them. Yeah. And maybe writing. Chinese characters.
Right. Yeah. No, I struggle with that one. Yeah, because with speaking and listening, I have that natural advantage of knowing roughly what it might sound like, right? But with writing, I'm starting from zero, just like everybody else.
Yeah, because like Chinese writing and Chinese speaking is totally different system, but we need to map them. So that's the hard thing. Yeah. Like in English, if you learn phonetics, you can read directly, but in Chinese, that doesn't mean that you can read when you speak, right? You know how to read, you know how to speak, and then you match the sound with the writing. That's why that makes the Mandarin is quite hard to learn. Yeah.
Okay. But because I know you've done teaching professionally, and you've taught some of your friends as a hobby, right? Surely you've done a little bit of experimentation on what is helpful. Like, what would make the students suddenly learn a lot quicker? Like, have you played around with that?
I think, so there are some ways for them to learn quicker. The first, I think they need to know what they really want, why they learn this, right? Yeah. And a teacher also need to teach, like, what meets their needs. So, for example, Chinese New Zealanders, I think first they should know how to speak Chinese, and also the topic relate to their daily lives, and they're gonna use that after they learn it, so they have more chance to practice this. And that's for speaking and vocabulary. And for Chinese characters, I think, when I teach my students, I just try to make a story out of these characters. Why we write this like this? We have to use our imagination, because it doesn't make sense sometimes, but we just try to imagine it as some story to connect the meaning with this pattern. So that's the character. And and also characters has something about Chinese culture as well. So if the learners are really into Chinese culture, I think they have more motivation to learn the character, to learn a calligraphy, maybe, for example. Yeah. So
you haven't got cases where students wrote, "My horse cooks good food."
Yeah, I know. They have sometimes. So I mean, my second language learners, those students, the tones is quite difficult thing for them to learn. But I always encourage them, try to mimic what I'm saying. Just try to follow me. It's same with when I learned translation, interpretation. You try to shadow someone speaking. When I learn English, I try to shadow those podcasts. So try to say exactly what they said. So I think learning Mandarin is same. If you want to correct your tones, when you watch those TV series, dramas, reality shows, you try to say with them. So that's one way for you to practice your tones.
Yeah, true. But I think there's a real trap with that, is that what you'll do is that you'll maybe watch a TV series that you really like. And often it's the characters that are the least realistic that are most funny or the most interesting, right? So then you start imitating this character and you start speaking in this weird way, perhaps. Like maybe you'll start, like maybe you really like the Beijing accent and you'll just put on this extremely, but you can't do it right? So you end up with this really heavy but fake Beijing accent when you're trying to imitate this character.
Yeah, I think that's possible, because I think I've met some friends. They learn Chinese and the accent is like, oh, I know where your teacher from.
Oh, okay.
Because it's possible. It's possible. So it also depends what you really want to learn. If you want to really learn standardized Chinese Mandarin, and just be careful what you choose to listen, right? But a little bit Beijing accent, for example, or a little bit Dongbei accent, that's not a big deal. And people think, wow, your Chinese is so good. You even have accent.
So for your hometown, is there a distinct dialect for your hometown?
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. So can you just give me some examples of what it sounds like?
That's a pity because I can't speak my dialect.
Oh, no. Yeah. Oh, okay.
But the reason was my parents, they're from different cities. So they speak different dialects. Yeah. And at home, they just speak Mandarin to my sister and I.
Yeah.
But I can understand the dialects because the dialects sounds really similar with Mandarin. It's just the tones are a little bit different. Yeah. So it's not like Cantonese. It's totally different language.
Yeah.
But I regretted when I went to undergrad university. Yeah. I went to another city and I feel like everyone can speak their dialect, but I couldn't. You know, but it's hard for me to learn again, and I really like Mandarin, so I like the sound of Mandarin. So yeah.
The one thing that I've repeatedly heard is that the reason why most classroom settings are a poor way of learning a language is that it teaches what, and excuse the machine learning terms here, but is that it sort of encourages prescriptive learning.
Yeah.
So I don't know what terms you use to describe it.
It's like really, how do I say?
So basically, instead of being like what happens is you get taught things like grammar, and you get taught things like, well, this is a sentence.
Yeah.
And you have to put words in this order, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So when you're constructing a sentence like I am hungry, you're like, oh, it's subject I, verb am, wait, that doesn't
object.
No, because that's not. Huh? That's not, hungry is not an object.
No, it's an adjective.
Yeah. But
I know what you mean. Yeah. Because most of teachers, language teachers, when we teach language, we tell them the certain rules and use the vocabulary to fill in, this sentences.
Yeah.
But it's somehow you don't feel it's natural to speak because you try to adjust it to the certain rules. And to some point, you're gonna lose your interest, learning it.
Yeah, but if the problem is when you're trying to construct a sentence by going, okay, I put the object last and I put the verb in the middle, it's very hard to remember and it's very, very unnatural.
Yeah.
Whereas if you think about it, children and even computers today learn language using subscriptive learning. That is where you, instead of saying, this is the rules of the language, you go, there's no rules.
Yeah.
But here's a sentence that's correct.
Yeah.
And here's another sentence that's correct. This sentence is wrong.
Yeah.
And then basically they go, okay, well, this sentence both begin with I. So therefore, usually you put I in front, right?
Yeah.
Your brain automatically makes that connection just because you saw two sentences. And the annoying thing is if you're learning language for the first time as a child, then you're going to be associating an emotion with a sentence. But if you're learning a second language, you're going to be associating your first language and your second language as an output, which is kind of a little bit different.
Yeah.
But the reason why I think we should really go with a subscriptive based learning is the fact that I think really early computers that worked on machine translation worked on rules and syntaxes and they sucked.
I see.
Whereas Google and all the good translation tools these days use machine learning.
Yeah.
And they
Big
do
data,
it.
Right?
They do it by basically they start with what you call the documents from UN because what happens is that it gets written in English first and then it can translate it into a few other languages. And that way you can feed both documents into a computer. Like, this is the input in English and this is the output in Chinese. And then the computer automatically makes those patterns, connections together. So perhaps we should be teaching adults language in that same way. If we're teaching computers that way, why aren't we teaching adults in the same way?
Yeah, it's really interesting idea. I mean, what you talk about is we call it implicit instruction or explicit instruction.
Right. Oh, okay. And there we go. There's a term for it.
Yeah,
I'm using machine learning terms, which is not the same thing.
Because there are some research also they're looking for this, which way, like implicit instruction on grammars or explicit instruction on grammars, which way is better for learners.
Yeah.
I mean, for my understanding is, if I'm the learner, of course, I prefer like implicit ways because it's more natural.
Yeah.
But I think it's one problem is, second language learners, they have quite limited input of the language. The child example, because children, they have quite like really rich input every day, and their parents gonna correct them when they made any mistake. So, and also it takes really like several years for them to say this language,
Right. Yeah.
So for the second language learners, they really need more input of the language they are learning, and if teacher teach them the rules first, it somehow will make this easier for them to, I know these rules now. Otherwise, it's gonna take really long time for them to realize, okay, this sentence should work like this. I didn't know this, So that's one of the reasons, I think, why now in the language lessons we teach this grammars point, and but I do agree what you said. It's kind of boring sometimes. No,
this I think machine learning and the way it's said language that fascinates me. Okay, so you told me that you taught at the New Zealand Chinese Association.
Yes, I can't remember how long time, but I was teaching some kids there on Sundays. The Mandarin class, because there were Mandarin class and a Cantonese class. That's why when I choose my PhD topic, I choose this topic. So my topic was teaching Chinese characters to New Zealand Chinese New Zealander children, kids. Because I feel like, why those children, they don't really want to keep their Mandarin language skill, and I think it's good for them, but they don't realize that. I understand kids, of course, they don't realize what does this mean to them. So I really wanted to find some way to engage them to learn more about Chinese language.
Because one of the odd things is another reason why these children might feel unmotivated is that their heritage language isn't Mandarin. Like it's Cantonese or some other dialect. And perhaps that puts an extra barrier. Like they're like, well, why? My parents don't speak this language.
Yeah, that's true. I think I also got some students, their heritage language is dialect. I think it's not Cantonese, Taiwanese.
Taiwanese. It sounds very close to Cantonese.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I don't understand it.
Oh,
my mum does, because my mum had relatives who speak Taiwanese. But if I listen very carefully, I can probably pick a few words out and I can guess what they mean.
Yeah, because I know some of my students, their heritage language is this, but they're still learning Mandarin, because I think maybe the parents tell them, Mandarin, more people speaking this. Speaking this is more useful, maybe. And I think language learning, learning anything, you need to make efforts. So when the students are young, they don't really want to learn extra stuff if it's not interesting, not fun. And when they go to high school, for example, they suddenly, maybe gradually, they realize that they want to speak this language. And also
a lot of them pick up that they're more motivated to learn in high school. Is that what you're saying?
I think when they grow up, they more realize that, I need to know like my background, because learning a language is just a tool. So so learning a language helped you to know better this culture. I mean, my understanding also why those undergrads or high school students, they want to learn their heritage language, because maybe they want to explore more about their parents' culture, maybe. But for younger students, younger children, they just feel they don't realize that.
Well, do you know what it really is, though? Is that, well, for Chinese, for boys anyways, you tell them, the girls in China are very attractive.
All right.
And then that motivates them.
Yeah, you should tell them this. I know. Yeah. I mean, it's one thing I also think because in China, like Japan or South Korea, because they have something to really attract people, you know? Like modern culture.
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
Their TV shows and their stories are very famous.
Yeah. So language learners really say, okay, I want to learn that language because I watch the TV show often. And so for Chinese, I think because Chinese culture is something really venerable, but it's quite deep. Yeah. It's not something young, like quite young people, they can realize, I'm interested in that. I think it's rarely. Yeah. But that's one thing. I mean, China, we also have really interesting modern culture, those TV series and the reality show, but compares to South Korean one, Japanese one, is not that attractive, like my opinion. So it's one way. Maybe
I'm guessing you're into Korean dramas and Japanese TV shows, are you?
Was, but not now.
So it's really interesting because Korea recently has done very well in which their TV shows have made it into the mainstream culture. Yeah. Whereas
everyone was talking about this.
Yeah. And I reckon Chinese TV shows, the height of Chinese TV shows in terms of overseas success was actually back in the Hong Kong days. Yeah. And the modern Chinese TV shows haven't had the same impact.
I think so.
Yeah. And I just wonder what the difference is.
That's hard to say. I think in China, in mainland China, I think TV shows now are also really good, but still compared to South Korean ones, still we need to improve some, you know. But because I think maybe because this industry started later than Korean one and the Japanese one, and also mainland China, this industry also started later than Hong Kong one. So that's why it's still developing. Yeah, but I want to see one day people really fascinated about some Chinese culture, but not like those back in days, those culture. Right. They are, it's China, talking about China, something we can really attract young people. Yeah, that's the thing. Because I've involved the New Zealand China Friendship Society, and most of members are quite senior people because they know China and they have been there, they really love China. But I was always thinking how to attract more younger people.
That's my job.
That's your job.
Because the Future Dragonz is Chinese young professionals group.
That's great.
Okay, you're giving me a big job now.
Looking forward to that.
Okay. What I've noticed though is that for Korean K-pop and the recent Korean TV series Squid Game, they have tweaked the style of it quite differently from I can feel when they're tweaking the show to match foreign tastes. Yeah. Like when I watch Squid Game, it doesn't really feel like I'm watching a Korean TV show. That's true. It feels like I'm watching a TV show, but American it's in Korean. It's definitely got very strong Western tastes baked into it. Yeah. I'm not sure if that's on purpose or that's just what the director's like.
Maybe because it's on Netflix, so it's
they're probably tweaking the
audience.
Netflix market.
Yeah. Oh, great. I think so. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Just a funny question. What do you find weird about New Zealanders in general? Is there anything that just, when you first came here, you're like, oh, New Zealanders do this? You're like, what?
I think the first thing I already mentioned, their fashion, right? Fashion in winter with shorts. That's the first thing I feel is kind of interesting. And let me think. Some other New Zealanders... some food maybe the first year I was thinking what New Zealand what typical New Zealand food and said no, we don't really have our typical New Zealand food and all mixed from different countries and someone said fish and chips. Oh really? Fish and chips?
That's actually British.
Yeah, that's what I want to say. So it's not really New Zealand food. Oh, and one more thing, I was quite interested. I think still the first year when I was here, and I asked my homestay, said, what's the national day of New Zealand? And my homestay said, we don't really have a national day. I said, really?
Yeah,
but he said it's Waitangi Day can be national day. And I was quite surprised. I said, why in a country doesn't have national day? But so it's something interesting I remember. Yeah.
Right. I think the thing is that National Day is usually when the current government came into power, right? And with New Zealand, it was sort of like we're a British colony, and then slowly British just walked away.
Yeah.
So at what day did they walk far enough to not care about
Day,
us?
right? Yeah.
And Waitangi Day was the only thing where people signed a big paper. Have you had a meat pie?
Yeah, I still remember that.
Is it something you eat a lot of?
I just eat once and never eat again. Okay. I don't know. I'm not a meat person. And I still remember that day when I ate this. Because that year my homestay prepared my lunch every time. And I went to the school where I was supposed to teach. And they gave me my homestay prepared a meat pie.
Yeah.
It's quite heavy. I remember it's quite heavy, too much meat inside. And it's not my thing, honestly.
Right. Yeah.
And I don't come back. Yeah.
What's really interesting is that my mum used to give me a lot of that stuff.
Oh, really?
Yeah. She thought that, it's got meat in it.
Oh, yeah, it's good.
Right? It must be good then.
Yeah.
And, now I know better that it's mostly just gravy.
Yeah. And it's kind of like fast food, right? It's not really healthy. Yeah. And, but I was really, I enjoyed every food my homestay cooked for me because all different.
Right.
And I felt, it's interesting they're eating this. But I missed Chinese food in that year. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. But you got weaned off it. Well, how would you compare the Chinese restaurants here compared to the Chinese food you had back at home?
It's different. Because I feel like Chinese restaurant here, most of restaurants are from South Chinese cuisine, right? Cantonese, yum cha, and also they do have some spicy Sichuan cuisine, but I still feel
I like
different.
the spicy stuff actually.
I really like that. That's good because I really like spicy stuff. But here I don't feel they really cook lots of spicy food, and also when they fry things, because certain vegetables we don't have here in New Zealand. Because back in China, it's quite easy for us to buy different vegetables when we pan fry those dishes. But here I just feel it's quite limited. The vegetables, those vegetable dishes are quite limited. It's a little bit different. I really miss really authentic Chinese food in China.
Do you know how to make it with local ingredients?
I'm cooking. I'm cooking by myself, basically. Yeah. Because I don't know. I prefer I prefer preparing the food, cook the food, and eat what I know inside. Yeah.
So I think I heard once that you said you were vegan now. Is that true?
Yeah, I'm still vegan.
Oh, okay.
Last year, January. So 2 years now, almost 2 years now. So that's another reason I don't really go out to eat because they're quite limited vegan restaurant here.
Right. Yep.
And in Chinese restaurants, even they fry vegetables, they're gonna use some. Maybe I guess use some how do you say the soup from meat or something to make its flavor better. So I don't really go to the those restaurants. So I try to cook by myself.
So how do you describe veganism to your parents?
Oh yeah, that's something. My parents, when I first talked to my parents say, really? You should look after yourself. It's not healthy. Right. You need to eat meat. You need eat eggs, drink milk. You need those. Yeah. And they were quite worried about me. Yeah. And because I'm quite far away, and they're just saying, oh, you need to eat healthy food. But I told them why I want to be vegan. And gradually they show, because at the beginning, I show what I ate. I took picture and sent to them. So they saw what I ate every day. And I tell them, okay, I try to eat healthy food. And gradually they say, okay, you do it seriously. And they don't say much about it. And 2018, I think, when they came, I ate vegan food. They ate something what they want. So they didn't force me. I think I really gratitude my parents, that they have open mind. So they don't force me to do something they want, but they respect my opinion. But at the same time, I try to tell them the reason why I want to do this.
They didn't secretly go, oh no, Mung Ping has been corrupted by Western influence.
No. But I'm still quite... I've heard that in China now also quite a lot of vegetarian restaurants, vegan restaurant. When I left China, I didn't notice there are many, but now some of my friends told me that quite a lot. So, but still a little bit worried when I go back to China, how I can eat.
Right. So wouldn't like a Buddhist monk have a similar diet to vegans?
Yep. I think so. I think also in China, when you think about a person who is vegan, you think, oh, must be Buddhist. Because we usually eat vegan food in the temple restaurant. That's why people connect them. But because I haven't been back for several years, so I don't know now how people think about this. Because more people, I heard that's more like in Guangzhou, the area, quite a lot of vegan, vegetarian people there. But I still, it would be challenging for me if I go back home and my family members say, "Oh, we prepared this food for you. Why you don't eat?"
Okay. So one of the things I'm curious about, because China's such a big country, and actually it's easy to think from a foreigner's perspective that all Chinese people are the same, but actually that's not true. There are very distinct cultures from within China. Do you find that when you meet Chinese people who come from different provinces, do you find they're as alien as, say, like a person from a different country?
I mean, you're right, because like people from other countries always saying, oh, you are Chinese, you are same. But sometimes I also talk to my friends who are not from China. I tell them there are lots of different ethnicities in China, and like Han people were a majority group, but we have lots of we call it minority group. So, and we have different languages, different cultures, and that's the beauty about China, because it's interesting. You're gonna see different things. And for me, in New Zealand, it's not my first time to meet people from, like, Chinese people from different provinces. And when I went to university in Nanjing, I think my classmates, from different cities, provinces, I feel like it's not a trouble for me to make friends with people from other provinces. And I always think it's interesting, because I just naturally, for me, to feel like if I meet someone from different backgrounds, I want to know more about this. Because it's something I haven't been through. So which, by talking to this person, I know, okay, you have been through this, and you like this in your hometown. So it's something new for me. And but I do, because in China we do have some stereotypes for different kinds of provinces.
I'd like to hear some of them.
I think we have some, like, for example, like Zhejiang province. There are lots of people that are into business, so we think they're really rich in Zhejiang province. And I know there are some not good stereotypes as well, which I don't really want to mention, but I want to say it's just some people want to make joke about, but we are all Chinese, and we speak Mandarin, so it's same language. We are using the same writing system, and then we are family. I mean, I really like just try to find something we are in common, not always look at those different things.
Right.
And the different things is something it's good to explore and to exchange. It doesn't make us different.
Yeah. So you are Han, right?
Yeah, I'm Han.
It's impossible. You can never be sure, really, because a lot of people.
Yeah, I know.
A lot of the minorities actually look very similar to Han.
Yeah, and because when I was in high school, I really said, why I'm Han? I really want to be one of minority group.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because back in my age that time, so for the university entrance examination, we have extra points for minority groups students. Yeah. I was saying, why I'm not in that group? And also I'm quite, for example, I think like Ming Dynasty, Qing Dynasty, when I watch those TV series and their clothes, their dress.
The period dress.
Yeah. I said, I want that as well. I want to be one of them. But so it's quite interesting. And also because I learned dancing when I was a little. So when we learn dancing, we learn different types of like Inner Mongolian dance, Xinjiang dance. So those kind of dance, I feel like, they have their own traditional dress. But in Han, we have Han, we call it Hanfu. We had that. But when I was a kid, I didn't know that. So I feel like I want also to be one of minority group. So I feel like I have my culture.
Yeah. Okay.
It's quite interesting. Yeah.
Well, it's actually, if you think about it, the extra points for minority is not that much different from what America's doing with their college admission system.
Yeah, I see. That's true. Yeah.
I was curious to know what type of stereotypes you have of people from Guangdong province.
Oh, stereotype. I don't really have stereotype, I think, but I just feel people, they don't eat spicy food.
Right.
Yeah. And I only been there maybe twice, I think. Yeah. Oh, it's super hot. Humid. Yeah, I really can't.
I've never been there during summer.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Try it, please.
Oh, no. It won't be a fun holiday.
It's really, I want to just stay indoors, But I really like yum cha there.
Right.
It's something I really interesting because it's tiny and it's like something, you really made effort to make that. Yeah. Okay. It's like arts.
Yeah. Yeah. I've noticed that with the Europeans, when the European immigrants come over, they go out of their way to explore outdoor activities in New Zealand. Let's be honest, that's the only interesting thing to explore for them, anyways. Chinese people aren't, and a lot of Asian people aren't quite up to scratch with that. They don't. They find that at first that the outdoor activities don't appeal to them. Sometimes I introduce them to these activities, and they find themselves liking it over time. That's been my experience, anyways.
I agree. I think it really depends on people themselves. I was a person who really want to explore the outdoor activities. I didn't really do much when I was in China, but when I came here, I know local people like it. And as it's one of the beauty here as well. I want to explore. And I do agree, not all the Chinese, for example, Chinese students or Chinese new immigrants, they want to do that. They turn to be indoor person,
Right.
But I think there are some people really into it, and they just, because it's something new for them. So when you learn something new, it's like, okay, maybe I don't do that. I just do what I get used to. You just need some, if I know my friend is in that tramping club, I'm gonna go with him one day. So it's all about connection, and he or she will feel comfortable to step forward.
Are you much of a hiker yourself?
Honestly, I was first year when I was here. I have quite a lot of free time. Every term break, term break, I went one place to hike. So I went quite a lot of places in New Zealand. But when I started to do my PhD, it was quite stressed. I didn't really have time to do. But I really enjoyed that. To see the, really beautiful here in New Zealand. And then you connect with nature and something for you to release your pressure if you have. And also when you walk, And I really enjoyed talking to my friends who was walking with me.
Yeah.
It's really quality time, talk. You can have really good talk on the way.
Okay. Yeah, because what was really interesting was once I convinced my friend to go do the Roy's Peak walk at Wanaka. Have you seen that? Have you been there?
Yeah, Roy's Peak. I think I know that.
It's
I wanted to go, but last time I wanted to go, it was locked because
it's lambing season.
Yes,
I think.
yes, last year. Yeah.
So I convinced my friend to do a sunrise walk. So I started at like 2 a.m. I got up at 2:30 a.m.
That's great.
Started the walk at like 3 a.m. ish.
All right.
And there were a couple of crazy Europeans walking with us for doing the sunrise trip.
How was that?
It was really cool. Like, I can show you the videos that I took. I took my drone up there,
yes, please.
And I got some like really cool drone shots of the sunrise as I was walking up.
Nice.
Yeah.
So how long it took you?
I think
So it started at 3.
It started at 3 a.m. I think it was like a 2-hour plus walk, and it was all uphill.
Oh, yeah, I have heard about it.
I was sweating like mad for the first for like the 90% of the walk. I was sweating really, really badly. And then the last like few hundred meters, I think it was like last 100 meters elevation, the temperature just plummets. And I went from like basically wearing a t-shirt to putting my big jacket back on because it was so cold in the last 100 meters of elevation.
Because it's just too high?
Yeah, I think that's it. I'm not too sure. But it's really funny how there's you cross an elevation and it just changes completely. But what was really interesting is that when I was coming down, and by the time I was almost down, it was like 10 a.m. I saw lots of people coming up. Yeah. Lots. Like so much I had to dodge foot traffic.
Okay.
And what was interesting was there was so many Chinese tourists doing that work.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And that's when I realized that Chinese tourists these days are very outdoorsy.
So what's the age group?
Okay, usually it's you'll get a bunch of young people, people who are probably
30?
No, I think they didn't look 30. They look like they were basically studying or they just finished studying. That Asian people look young, so maybe that's the reason.
Oh, thank you.
Young people, and then there was another group who were quite old, like middle-aged, but like they looked like my parents, maybe older.
Okay.
And that's when I'm like, that's weird. Like old Chinese people doing hiking, and this is not easy hike. I know it's not considered a hard hike, but let's be honest, it isn't easy. If my parents did it, they'd be complaining. First 10 minutes, they'd complain immediately. So the fact that these Chinese people have, are interested
quite professional? They have quite professional outfit with hiking?
No. One of the reasons I can tell, like, I find that I can usually tell whether they're from mainland China or they're from Taiwan is due to the way they dress in a hike.
Oh, really?
Because basically in Taiwan, they're probably looking at all these Instagram pictures. And they always like. I just noticed that the young girl influencers who from Taiwan, they're always in yoga pants because that's what the influencers are wearing. But the girls from the mainland, they're probably from like a northern provinces which are quite cold. And I think during that time, there's this like it's like a puffer jacket, but it's like a very long puffer jacket.
Yeah, I have that.
Yeah. That was in fashion, so. They were wearing that, and that's why I'm like, they're definitely not from Taiwan. They're different from mainland.
Yeah.
That's how I can tell.
Clever, I think. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. That must be one of the clues.
Yeah. But it was interesting to see, like, my parents, my dad's been here for 30 years now. So this is a long time.
Yeah.
And they would have slowly adapted to these New Zealand hobbies, but they really haven't. Whereas these people in China are now actively engaging in these outdoor activities. Probably because I read it on a magazine somewhere. I don't know.
I think because, if they are travelers, even tourists, because before they come to New Zealand, how New Zealand markets themselves.
Yeah.
New Zealand is pure nature, this place.
Yeah.
And the people are prepared.
Yeah.
They are prepared to be outdoor person,
Right.
outdoor people when they come here. And they they maybe bring all the stuff from China to get ready to go for hike. I think that's one of the reasons. And because New Zealand, they know it's about nature. It's not about shopping, for example. It's not about, big cities. It's about nature. So they are ready for that. Yeah. I think that's one of the reasons.
Yeah, but definitely there's still a large group of Chinese people. Like some of my relatives still see New Zealand in this particular, it's the land of milk powder sort of thing.
That's true. Some of my friends also asked me to, buy some milk powder for them. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's good quality.
Yeah. And it's funny because I never buy that stuff myself. And
one day.
Yeah. True.
Yeah, but by the way, also I think now in China also there are a trend of tramping now.
Yeah, okay.
Quite a lot of people when they have holiday, they prefer just go to some mountains to do for a hike, and also they also prefer just to drive. For example, go to Tibet, go to Xinjiang, just drive there to have a tour. Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Lifestyle is changing.
Yeah, things are changing, and I reckon my parents and a lot of other earlier immigrants, by being in New Zealand so early, they're holding on to their old culture.
Yeah.
Whereas China's changing so quickly.
That's true.
A lot of the earlier immigrants are holding on to what they had back when they were young. So yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I remember 2 years ago when I went, maybe 3 years ago 2 years ago, June, when I went back to China. I just went to Hong Kong and Guangzhou, Shenzhen. I feel like I'm really out because I get used to, for example, using my credit card to pay in New Zealand. And when I went back to Shenzhen and use their phone everywhere.
Oh, Alipay and stuff.
Yeah. And so it's quite funny example when I was in a supermarket. I just buy, I can't remember, just a few dollars thing. And I used my credit card. I was waiting here for 20 minutes. Because people all use their phone to do it, and they went away. But I was waiting here because I chose to use my credit card. I'm like, oh wow,
even beggars don't deal in cash now.
Yeah, that's true. So I feel like I can't keep up with the speed how China developed. So yeah, that's one reason we should visit more often. Even though we are here.
Okay, so one thing I want to ask about is sort of the current events in China. So recently, the government's been cracking down on the private tutoring industry. So
that's true.
Did you do private tutoring growing up?
Yeah, I did. I remember when, I think since primary school. Primary school, what I did was English. Maybe year 3 we started to learn English, but my parents wanted me to learn English more, and we just signed up for a private tutoring about I think Cambridge English something, and went to middle school, junior middle school. We did mathematics, we did physics, those a lot. High school we stopped because high school basically we're studying every day, so we didn't have time. It's quite common for the Chinese students, they go to have this private tutoring. I saw the news, Chinese government now stop all the private tutoring institutions, because I think one of the reason, I also talked to my parents about this, and they mentioned to me, and one of the reason is in China education we want people, they have the equal education, but those private tutoring is quite pricey. Really you have to pay a lot for that. And students are from different families, they have different financial status. It doesn't mean all the students they can go through the private institution. And which means that they have different performance maybe in the school. So that's one of the reasons I think. It makes it really hard for people from quite limited financial status family. But another reason is also about it's quite expensive. So if people want to have more than one child, it's quite expensive for them to raise up their child.
Okay.
Yeah. But I think now, I mean, my opinion is good because when we try to move those private tutoring to local public school, that's a good choice. If students finish their class, for example, 3 o'clock, and they stay at school to learn this.
Right.
And those teachers from private tutoring institution, they can come to local school to teach.
Right.
Like we can make the price down, or I don't know how they charge it, but it will be help for the student. Will be helpful. Okay. Yeah, students still can learn that. Yeah, and maybe also safe for them. They just stay in the school.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So my parents didn't think the private tutoring industry was that great, because they say that what happens is the same kind of people running the schools also run the private tutoring industry. So it leads to this conflict of interest where education is now behind a DLC paywall. You want to learn actual math? Nah, you got to pay extra.
You got a point. Some of the teachers, they really did that. So it was not good.
Right.
So I think there's also one of the reasons, government has to come to say stop doing this. Because I also I mean, it's quite common for us to find some teacher that also work in the private tutoring, or even they have their own private tutors. So it was a shame how a teacher, to be this kind of teacher. When you teach, you have to be the role model for their students, right? What
I've noticed is that when I meet my younger cousins back in China, they are so busy. Like their parents put them through, okay, now you got swimming class, you got gym class, you got piano class.
That's true.
They've got school, and then they have all these evening classes, and I'm like, oh my goodness, like this child has no other time to do anything else.
I think it's more competitive compared to my childhood,
right?
Because I also have heard some of my friends, like brothers, they are now in middle school as well. Also, like what you said, gym class. Why gym class? Is that because it's also one of exam, includes one of exam? I think it's why parents force their children to do that. I think because they want them pass the university entrance examination, like get higher score,
right?
To go to the better university. Gaokao is the most important force to them. Because it's such competitive place in China.
Did you do well in the Gaokao?
I was okay. I was okay. I don't want to say I'm a really good student, but I'm not really bad. So I went to the first tier of university because we have 3 tiers, different levels.
Oh, okay.
So I was all right.
Okay. No, that sounds like you did pretty well then.
I mean, it's okay.
Were you good enough to be able to be selected for a program that you wanted to do?
That's the thing. Because I didn't know what I want to do.
Right. Oh, okay.
Because maybe
no expectations. Everything is great.
Maybe I can represent some of the Chinese students because we were really busy with study. Like busy with try to have higher score, but we don't really know what I want. I want to do in the future. At least me, maybe some of my friends around me, we didn't know. And when we pick those universities, we just sometimes random or sometimes say, oh, this city I want to go. Or this university sounds like good, or this major. Maybe one of my family members is doing this. So it's not like we don't really. I think we have the career development stuff, but not really.
Right.
I didn't know what I should or what I like.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So I think in New Zealand in high school you really have some ideas, right? No. Kids, high school kids don't know what they want.
I'd say for me, like I'm an engineer, and a lot of people who were in my high school say, well, you're the kind of person who did engineering. But even I didn't really know what I wanted to do, because there's a couple of areas that I wasn't so good in that would make me not so great engineer. But I didn't know how easy it was to overcome those weaknesses. But Yeah, most high school kids don't know what they want.
Yeah, I think this maybe this common problem for all the education.
Like for me, anyways, my parents wanted more doctor children. I didn't fulfill that dream for them.
Yeah, like doctor, lawyer, those those jobs.
So like you say, I actually went to Dunedin. I talked to the people at the university. I talked to people at those residential colleges, like the places that you stay when you go to uni for the first year.
Yeah.
And that's when I decided that I didn't really want to do medicine. And so I decided to do engineering. And I'll be honest, that's one of the few major decisions I've ever made in my life. And it's probably one of the best decisions I've made. You know, medicine just didn't suit me. I would make a terrible doctor. My sisters, fulfilled that dream for my parents, so that they can sleep happy.
But at least you tried, which is good.
Yeah.
But hopefully, I think it's our duty to try to help those young teenagers or children to find out what they're passionate about.
Yeah.
But it's still hard, and also lots of adults as well. What you should do, what I should do, what I'm happy to do, what I want to do.
Yeah.
People are just confused and lost. Yeah.
I definitely think in New Zealand you have a lot more options. Like, if you want to pursue a certain career, it's much easier for you to say, "Oh, I'll go to this university and I'll pick this major." And in China, I feel like a lot of people end up with majors they wasn't really their first pick. But they're stuck with it because that's the program that accepted it. And you wouldn't not accept it if you got given an invitation to do a program. You would not accept it, right?
Because here, I think you apply for the program.
Yeah.
But in China, we did the Gaokao, and then based on your score, of course, you put some universities there which you want to go, but also depends on whether university let you to come. So you really don't have the freedom. Once you decided to go, if you say, "Oh, I don't want to continue this major," which means you have to go through Gaokao again.
Oh.
So you have to do the exam again, and who knows what score you're gonna get.
So what I know is the Gaokao. You how many years of high school in China?
3 years high school.
3 years. Okay. So basically, you study for 3 whole years, and
just
one test counts for everything.
When I had Gaokao, that's like that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Because sometimes I think some of the city also they did separately. For example, if the student, because in high school also, when I was in high school, we learned all the subjects in the first year, but since second year, we just choose a subject we are good at. For example, I was not good at in chemistry and physics, so I stopped learning this, and I learned more about history, politics, those kind of thing, and geography. So I take those subjects for the exam. But in some cities, also they also need to have the exam for extra other subjects, but before Gaokao. So it's separate exams. But I think they also include all the grades from those exams. But really, Gaokao is really important. Like just those 3 days. I think 2 or 3 days. Now it's 3 days, I think.
Oh,
if I didn't get it wrong, when I was there, I think it was 2 days. Yeah, but we need to check about that.
Wait, so is it done? So how long is each? Oh God, I should have put my phone on silent.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah, honestly, I can't remember. My mom still remember my grade in Gaokao. Right. I can't remember.
A memory I want to suppress.
So I remember is when I did Gaokao was, for example, Chinese is the first half day morning, and the second the afternoon was maybe English.
Right.
And the second day, I forgot the order, but maybe mathematics. Yep. And the last afternoon was all the history, politics, geography mixed together. So that's a one big subject.
Yeah.
So that's how we did it. Just half day.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
It was quite long. It was quite long. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, okay. That's very similar. It sounds very similar to NCEA tests.
Yeah.
But in NCEA, you do
internal and external.
So it depends on what subjects you're doing.
Okay.
Right. Mm-hmm. If you're doing the traditional mathematics, sciences, then it's very external heavy. So 60% of your grade would be determined by that test at the end of the year.
Really? Okay.
But you get to so what's interesting is that you do 3 different tests. And you have level 1, and the whole they have the system here so that people who don't want to complete high school can still complete their high school with a qualification. In reality, it's not really that useful, unless you got university entrance qualification. It's not really a qualification.
That's true. Yeah.
But what's really funny is that one of the most important. The last 2 years are the most important because the last year is what gives you your grade that allows you to go to university. But because that grade doesn't get finalized till the sort of beginning of the following year, actually what happens in level 2 is very important. Especially if you're applying for, so let's just say you go into a different city.
I see, yeah.
And you want to stay at a very prestigious college.
Yeah.
Like very fancy accommodation with other pompous kids who studied well. Then you start applying for that at the latter half of your final year of high school, right? So what scores do you have to show?
Level 2.
Yeah, you show them your level 2 scores because your level 3 scores haven't been done yet.
I see.
So yeah, that's how it works in the New Zealand system. I don't know what it's like now.
That's interesting because students got different, more than one opportunities to prove themselves, right? Yeah.
But if you're doing a art heavy subject, then there's a lot of internal. So the project that's done during the year counts for most of your subjects.
Yeah.
And I was always jealous at those art students. They're like, I've got 50 excellence credits already. And I'm like, I haven't even passed high school yet because I'm waiting for that 3 hours at the end of the year to do that exam to get my grades.
I see. Yeah, it depends on the subjects.
Yeah. I don't know which one's better. Like, I want to say that the New Zealand system's better.
Yeah, because it's not like one-off.
Yeah,
because in China it's kind of, if you made something mistake in the States, you have to start over one year.
Did your parents I heard these stories how their parents would move closer to the exam center prior to the exam to get them adapted to the area so they'll do extra well when they did your parents help you like that?
No, we didn't, because the exam center was just, because when we did exam we just exchanged the schools. We don't do the exam at our school. We went to a different school to do the exam. So I think my parents just drop us, like my friend and my sister and I would send us to the place we take exam. And like something, my parents gonna wear something red, lucky, lucky colors. Lucky color, something like that.
Okay.
But nothing else. Oh, one thing as well. Quite funny. My grandparents, my grandpa, and also some of my relatives, they gave us some gifts. But all the gifts, they're like lucky thing. For example, 红牛, you like, how do I say? You have energy, right? Red ball. You have energy like a ball, and also some
Didn't
like.
They actually just give you wait? They gave you Red Bull drink.
Yeah, the drink. They gave me Red Bull drink, and also my grandpa also gave me what's that? Like what's that? Oh, Wang Wang. I'm not sure whether you have tried those snacks.
Okay,
and also
I haven't
drinks.
tried it. Yeah.
Okay, Wang Wang is really big name in China. For example, Spring Festival, Chinese New Year, we usually buy this kind of products because Wang means some prosperous, something good gonna happen, like wealthy or healthy or anything.
Yeah.
And so my parents and my family give us gifts like that. Just wish good luck.
Okay.
Yeah. Because it's really important for every student. Yeah.
Awesome.
And even some of my friends now, they are in their 30s. They still have some nightmares about Gaokao.
Oh, really?
Because last weekend I just catch up, met some of my friends, and they said this. They said I even had a dream about Gaokao. They said, "Oh, we're running late. Oh, we have to rush for the Gaokao." Yeah.
Okay.
Still. That's quite interesting. Yeah.
Oh, it's all past now anyways.
I know. Yeah. I mean, I really enjoyed that because I think for Gaokao, I also discussed it with one of my where's that, Colombian friends. Because he also described the education system there. So I thought, because in China, how we make it not equal, but just give chance to everyone to have this higher education, and how to make it fair. It's really hard. And in China, people from different families, when they have better education or not that good education, so I think Gaokao is kind of fair to everyone.
Right.
And I feel like it's one way. It's something we can do now to try to give good education to everyone. Yeah.
Right.
Because I it's, just my opinion, if we do the same with application system to apply for the university, how you prove you are better than others. So you need to have more experience, more private tutorial.
More, see?
See? More money you have to spend there.
Right.
So,
one of the things I still think back of is that how innocent I was during my student days. Because if you think about it, like the Gaokao or exams, what do you ultimately get graded on? You get graded on based on how well you did against other people. So your classmates were your rivals. They were your your enemies.
That's true.
But
you didn't think about it.
You didn't think about it like that. In fact, you were very happy to have studied with them.
Yeah, that's true. I really enjoyed the time with them.
Yeah.
Because the school I went, we had accommodations there. Like we stayed there, the boarding school.
Yeah.
And we pretty much 24 hours with classmates. And we study together, have fun together.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed the time.
Right.
It's really like simple, just study. Nothing else you have to worry.
Yeah. Because one of the things is when I made it to the workforce, I realized, you can't make friends with your coworkers. How do you make any friends? You have to actually try and do it, like go out of your way to do it, right? And this is the reason why I decided to join Future Dragonz. I've actually mentioned this in the first podcast, that the reason why I decided to join, I had a friend who added all her Asian friends onto the Future Dragonz group. That's how I knew about it, right? But for the first time when I made it with the workforce, I realized, I got to join groups like this in order to find friends. And I did find a group of friends through Future Dragonz.
That's great.
And then, you meet their friends and you meet their friends and all, it all just goes on from there.
Yeah.
But the reason why I took on the role to become the Future Dragonz leader when Tony and Melissa left was to give back to the community that has given me so much. So that's why I'm here today.
I think I agree, because we want to find some people we have likely mind, we have something in common, and we do need friends. We can't.
And how did I know you? I knew you from Chinese meetup, I think.
I
think it was called the Christchurch Polyglot Group, run by Andrew Leatham.
Yes.
I'm gonna put his face in the frame somewhere. It's funny, he didn't tell me to advertise his group, but I'm gonna do it anyways.
That's great.
More friends is good for everybody.
Because I know. I think I met Andrew because of another friend.
Right.
And also I talked. Andrew is amazing, and he knows lots of languages. He's so passionate about learning language. And I also helped him about the Chinese meetup, Chinese English meetup. It's one way for us to make friends as well. Okay. Just have to go out of your house to join some activities. That's great. And also I'm really happy like you take this lead for the Future Dragon. I really looking forward what's all the in the future, what kind of activities and all the podcasts. It's really interesting, exciting.
Okay, cool. Well, thanks for coming on the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, and thank you for listening what I said.
Don't forget to check out our social media profiles. We're also on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Link in description below.